So she agreed to do that. So hello. Hello to everybody. My name is Beate Weiskopf. I'm the Executive Secretary of GISCO, the German Initiative on Sustainable Cocoa. As you know, this is a multi-stakeholder platform, and I'm stepping here for my colleague from GIZ. As you know, the secretary is run also by GIZ from GISCO. And I think there are some interesting results of this study I would like to show you. So the question is, can Ivorian cocoa producers live on their income? I would like to give some information on the context, objectives and methodology of the study, and results and recommendations. With regard to the context and the importance of cocoa for the Ivorian economy, we heard such figures already today. More than 1.7 million tons per year is produced in Côte d'Ivoire. It is 15% of the GDP, 40% of the exports. There are more than 600,000 people employed in the cocoa sector, and it's a revenue source for more than 3 million people. Since 2011, several reforms have been implemented. The creation of a single structure, the Conseil du Café du Cacao, the implementation of the private-public partnership platform in Côte d'Ivoire, which is, we heard also, is a very successful platform. Côte d'Ivoire was coming back to the stabilization and repayment to the producer of 60% of the cocoa price. It was established the National Cocoa Development Program called DECOUC, which was updated in 2014. What are now the objectives of the study? The objectives are to give answers to those two questions. What is the current level of income of cocoa farmers' households in Côte d'Ivoire, and does this income allow them to meet their needs? And methodology was used. There was a survey made from randomly choosing 650 households in all of the cocoa growing regions. First results with regard to the farm characteristics. We had an average area of 4.9 hectares of cocoa growing. The average age of the plantations was 20.1 years. 80% more or less was used with traditional varieties, and 41% was used in association with other crops. And 42% of the producers are members of the producers which was investigated were members of the cooperative. If we see here the average yield, kilogram per hectare, so we could see also a slight increase from 2012 to 2014 from 469 kilogram to 486 kilogram. The household composition, so the average size of the household was 8.5 members. The numbers of persons active in cocoa were 6.6 persons. And with regard to the age structure and gender structure, there are 2.58 persons with the age less than 7 to 17. And 2.17, 18 and more, men and women are 1.87 persons. With regard to the results, here we can distinguish between different operating models. So if you see, if you have a look at those two graphics, the first one here is gross margin of cocoa production with paid labor, and the other one is with family labor. Of course, the gross margin with family labor is higher, as you see here. What is interesting also is, if you see in those two graphics, the first column is always with new varieties, with hybrid varieties, and what's called tout venant here is local varieties. So that is in both different models, it's really a huge difference with regard to the gross margin if you use hybrid new varieties or the traditional varieties. And this is, I think, is in agreement with what was presented by my colleagues before. So I put in the line below, I put the figures in euro because it's in francs CFA. You see, you can see really that if you're using traditional varieties with paid labor, I think the profitability is really very, very low. The next one here with regard to the income sources of cocoa producers' households. With regard to this study, 71% of the income is coming from cocoa, and the rest 29% is divided 11% from food crops, from hevea, from coffee, from oil palms, from work outside of the farm, from renting, and from animal production. If you have a look with regard to the distribution of households by income within the year, you see that more than 30% of the cocoa households which has been investigated have an income less than 300,000 FCFR, that is around less than 500 euros more or less. 22% are in the range of 500 euro to 1,100 euro. 20% are in the range of 1,100 euro to 2,200 euro, and another 22% are in the range of over 2,200 euro. So I calculated here the FCFR in euro. So you see the biggest part of the households which has been investigated are below 500 euro or below 300,000 FCFR per year. With regard to the needs of the households, on the left column we see household income, how is it distributed, how is it spent. Most of the income is spent, and that is nearly 30% for food. 23% is spent for equipment, 10% for education, and 8% for health. So these are the main areas where the income is spent. And on the next slide, these are some data with regard to the needs, how the income covers the actual needs. The needs have been calculated in this study based on each household member needs and taking into account also the living income calculation, which was presented before by Friedel. It was included also a need for business investment. That was included also. And the result here is that for the average family of 8 members and 4.9 hectare of cocoa, the average need is 4 million FCFR per year, so this is around 6,000 euro per year. And taking this data into as a basis, the result is that over 70% of producers are unable to cover 6 months of their annual needs with their cocoa income. So most of the families, or over 70%, do not even cover 6 months, and there are only a few percentage, only 8%, as you see, of the families who are able to cover really their needs. With some additional information with regard to meeting the needs, the survey revealed that 44% of households take only 2 meals a day, 6% only 1 meal a day. 7 out of 10 households have no access to drinking water. They still use backwaters and or wells. In 88% of cases, primary schools are within 5 kilometers of the living quarters of cocoa producers, so it seems that the access to primary schools are quite good, actually. And in 80% of cases, the nearest health centers are within 5 kilometers of households, and 20% of the security posts are also located in a radius of 5 to 10 kilometers. Here I would like to show a simulation of business models to meet households' needs. Here in this graphic, 6 different business models have been analyzed. You see them here. The first one is cocoa, the second one is cocoa and food crop production, the third one is cocoa and other agricultural activities, fourth one cocoa and non-agricultural activities, the next one cocoa and other perennial crops, and the last one a mix of all these different activities, so a very diversified business model. So within the first column shows how is the situation, the actual situation, if those farms would really meet their needs. They need an extension of their cocoa farm with regard to between 3 to 4 hectares. So the column shows here the extension, the necessary extension of cocoa farms, which is necessary that they could meet their needs. Within the different simulations which have been made here, always different factors have been changed. For example, in the second column, the price has been increased to 1,000 FCFR, which is rather realistic that this will happen still this year. We heard about that. So we see that the necessary extension is lowered down a lot, so it's from 2 to 3 hectare with regard to the different business models used. If we go to the fourth column, there the authors were modeling with a cocoa price of 1,420 FCFR, and here we could see that especially the more diverse business models are really just in the position to meet their needs. So I will not go now within all the different parameters which have been changed, but the conclusion here is that increased diversification has a direct impact on income and meeting of the needs of the families. Recommendations. The first recommendation is it has to be developed and distribute a socially and economically viable, diverse farm model for small producers, especially for those less than 5 hectares, which is very difficult that they are profitably working. It should be at Ivory Coast reconsidered the production and distribution strategy for improved plant material. That is, as we have seen before, that is a very decisive factor for the increase of income, and only 20% of the farmers which have been reviewed here are using improved plant materials, so there is still a big gap to improve the production and distribution of this material. And it's also very important that the farmers are really aware of all the different choices they have with regard to their business, and so it's important to integrate in the training curriculum also curricula on farm management, business schools, for example, which is done already quite a lot into the agriculture advisory strategy. So thank you very much for your attention, and here are the contacts of the responsible person for this study, Jean-Marie Koulibaly, and any questions, you have his email.